When I stopped carrying everyone else's pain, I finally remembered how to breathe. I never imagined that those words could ever describe me. For years, I had lived as a collector, not of memories or treasures, but of burdens. I carried the sorrow of my parents, the mistakes of my siblings, the heartbreak of my friends, as if their suffering were a part of my own body. Some nights I would wake drenched in sweat, trembling because the weight of everyone else's life had made my own invisible. It started with my mother. She was a quiet woman, the kind whose laughter was rare and whose silence spoke volumes. She had a way of folding herself into corners of the kitchen, shoulders tight, voice clipped, carrying a grief she never explained. And I, in my youth, thought that grief was mine to fix. I would sit with her in the evenings, listening to stories she never finished, offering advice she never asked for, thinking if I just tried harder, I could ease her sadness. But the truth is, I could not. One afternoon, I remember the smell of rain on asphalt, the sharp scent of wet earth drifting through our open window. My mother had said something, almost under her breath, about feeling trapped in her own home, in her own mind. I asked her if I could help. She looked at me then, eyes brimming with tears, and said, "Sometimes letting it be, letting me be, is the only kindness you can offer." I didn't understand at the time. I left the room feeling hollow, thinking I had failed. That evening, I couldn't sleep. I kept turning over her words, tasting them in my mouth like bitter medicine. It wasn't until years later, after she passed, that I realized her message wasn't just for me. It was for her, for me, for all the people we think we can carry across the storms of life. Letting go didn't mean giving up. It meant acknowledging limits, accepting what cannot be fixed, and allowing love to exist without control. The second story began with my younger brother, Amir. He was reckless in the ways only the youngest child can be, jumping headfirst into life, leaving chaos in his wake, dragging me along whether I wanted to follow or not. He fell in love the wrong way, with people who didn't deserve him, and I spent years stepping in to smooth his messes. Calls in the middle of the night, heartache letters, emergency hospital visits. I carried them all, feeling responsible for choices that were his alone. I thought I was being a good sister, but slowly I noticed something. The more I carried him, the less he carried himself. And the more I suffered for him, the less he learned to survive on his own. It was a bitter revelation, but a necessary one. I had to step back. I had to let go, for his sake and mine. By the time I finally learned this, I understood the quiet liberation of releasing suffering that wasn't mine to bear. The act felt almost sacrilegious at first. How could I allow someone I loved to fall, to hurt, to make mistakes? Yet, paradoxically, letting go became the only true act of care.
The third story, that one was the hardest of all. It involves someone I never expected, my best friend, Layla. We had grown up like sisters, our lives entwined in a way that made the world outside seem irrelevant. But as we grew older, I began to notice a pattern. Layla's life was always stormy, full of misfortune, but the tragedies somehow always bounced toward me. I found myself absorbing her heartbreak as if it were my own. Late night calls where she would cry about lost jobs, failed relationships, or arguments with her family. I would lie awake afterward, heart racing, feeling every tear as if it had landed in my chest. My own world, the job I struggled with, the small apartment I barely paid rent for, the loneliness that sometimes pressed against me like a physical weight, was overshadowed by her storms, and I kept telling myself it was love, loyalty, devotion. But love, I would later realize, never demands self-erasure.
One winter evening, after a particularly brutal fight with her fiancé, I remember sitting on my balcony, the wind slicing across my cheeks, smelling the faint smoke of someone's fireplace drifting across the street. I felt my chest tighten, a pain like hands gripping my ribs. That's when it hit me. I was dying under the weight of someone else's suffering. And worse, she wasn't even aware of the damage. I was choosing this burden. I called her the next day. "Layla," I said, voice trembling, "I can't keep doing this." She laughed nervously, a little hurt, a little confused. "Doing what?" she asked. "Being your therapist?" "Yes," I whispered. "Being your crutch, being your shadow. I need to let go." There was silence, then a quiet, almost tearful voice. I didn't realize. That conversation was the first real step toward freedom. It wasn't perfect. There was guilt, there was anger, there was confusion, but there was also honesty. And for the first time, I realized that letting go wasn't abandoning anyone. It was allowing them to carry their own weight, to learn, to stumble, and to grow without dragging me down into their pain. Over the following months, I watched the subtle transformation. My brother learned to call only when he truly needed guidance. My mother's memory became a source of wisdom rather than an emotional anchor I could not lift. Layla started managing her life with a little more responsibility, discovering her own resilience. And me? I began to breathe again. Not the shallow, tight-bellied kind of breath I had taken for years, but deep, full, life-giving breaths. Letting go revealed something I hadn't expected. Peace is not given, it's claimed. Freedom is not granted, it's earned. And perhaps most important of all, love doesn't die when you release it. It transforms into something lighter, purer, a force that lifts rather than weighs you down. It was a lesson I had learned slowly, painfully, and in pieces through the lives I loved most. But now, as I sit here, pen in hand, the winter wind outside carrying the smell of rain-soaked earth, I understand fully. I am not responsible for fixing every heart, for carrying every sorrow. I am responsible for living mine. The truth about letting go is that it is never a single dramatic moment. It is a quiet, persistent unfolding. Some mornings I would wake and feel the old weight pressing against me, heavy as fog. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, it began to lift. Each time I reminded myself that a pain was not mine to carry, a little more space opened in my chest. A little more air, a little more light. I started noticing small changes in myself first. I could sit at my desk and write without the tremor of someone else's heartbreak creeping into my fingers. I could prepare meals without replaying my brother's failures in my mind. I could even smile at old photographs of my mother without a stab of guilt, remembering her wisdom instead of mourning what I couldn't fix. My relationships began to shift too. Amir stopped calling at odd hours, but when he did, it was a call of clarity, a request for advice rather than a cry for rescue. He was learning, stumbling, yes, but learning nonetheless, and I could be proud without feeling responsible for every misstep. Layla and I spoke less, but with more honesty than ever before. Our bond transformed from a dependency into something resilient and real. She learned to navigate her storms without pulling me under, and I learned to love without losing myself. It was a delicate balance, like walking along a shoreline where the waves licked your feet without knocking you down. Letting go also taught me compassion in a new way. Compassion for others is not synonymous with suffering for them. It is an understanding that their journey is theirs, and ours is ours. I could still hold them in my heart, care deeply, and offer support, but I no longer collapsed under the weight of their choices. That realization, though simple in theory, felt revolutionary in practice. There were public consequences too, though not in the sense of scandal or drama. Friends and family noticed the change in me. Some whispered, some questioned. "You've changed," they said. "You seem lighter." I nodded, unsure if they could understand, because this was a transformation invisible to the world, one that existed in quiet spaces, the way my shoulders no longer carried tension, the way my laughter no longer felt guilty, the way my sleep came without interruption. I began to share the lesson gently with those who were willing to listen. Sometimes loving someone means letting them carry their own burdens, I would say, sipping tea on my balcony, watching the rain streak the glass, and they would nod slowly, often in silence, as if hearing it for the first time. Looking back, I realize now that letting go was never about abandoning love. It was about preserving it, preserving my own soul, my own peace, my own capacity to give without drowning. It was about learning that the heart can expand, not by clutching, but by releasing. And so I ask you, quietly, as you sit with your own burdens tonight, what are you carrying that isn't yours to bear? What pain do you clutch out of love, loyalty, or fear? Sometimes the most courageous act is not holding on, but letting go. And in that release, discovering the freedom to truly live. So, my dear friends, as I fold these stories into the quiet corners of my heart, I want you to sit with this thought. Letting go does not mean you have failed or that love has ended. It means you are brave enough to honor yourself, even while caring for others. It means you can release what is not yours to fix, and in doing so, discover a peace you may have thought impossible. I wonder, as you hear these stories, what burdens are pressing against your chest right now? What weight are you carrying that belongs to someone else? Could you, even just a little, loosen your grip and allow both yourself and those you love to breathe freely? If these stories touched you, I invite you to share your thoughts below. Tell me your own journey with letting go, your struggles, your triumphs. And if you want to hear more stories that open the heart, remind us that even in pain, there is beauty and wisdom. Subscribe, support, and walk this path with me. Because sometimes the most profound love is the one that lets go and still holds the other gently in memory and in spirit.